Hello student, in this lecture we are going to study the sedimentary rocks. As we know that there are three types of the rock: igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks and the metamorphic rock. All the rocks are made from each other. Means one type of the rock changes to the another type. Okay, so in the previous lecture we have studied the igneous rock. Now in this lecture we are going to study the sedimentary rocks. Okay, so so our first point is what is mean by the sedimentary rock, how they are formed. So sedimentary rocks are formed by the consolidation and the cementation of sediments deposited under the water. Okay, so what is meant by the sediment? Sediments may be defined as the particles produced from the decay and the weathering of the pre-existing rocks. These sedimentary rocks are also called as an secondary rocks. Okay, so these groups include the variety of the rocks which is formed by the accumulation and the compaction consolidation of the sediments. Okay, the sediments is undergoes the compaction, accumulation and the consolidation, then the sedimentary rocks are formed. Okay, and these are all uh, and with the due to the influence of the water. Okay, so means as we know that the three factors which are responsible for the transportation. So first is in water, second is in wind, okay, and third is in glaciers. Okay, so these three agents transporting the are the major uh, agents which are the agents which are responsible for the transportation of the sediments. Okay, so these sediments are deposited under the water, then it is called as an then the rocks are formed which are called as an sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are known to cover as much as 75% of the surface area of the earth. Okay, means up to 75%, 75% of the area of the surface of the earth is covered by this type of the sedimentary rocks, and the rest of being covered with the igneous rocks and the metamorphic rock. Okay, so but the depth wise they disappears at the shallow depths at the most of the places. These sedimentary rocks are at the shallow depths at most of the places. Upper 16 kilometer of the crust of the earth, the volume of the sedimentary rock is estimated to be less than 10%. Means up to the 16 kilometer from the surface of the earth, it is found that about the sedimentary rocks which are present up to the 60 kilometer is very less, which is less than 10%. Okay, this means it is ranging from 5 to 8% in most cases. Okay. Okay, so this is the all about the sedimentary rock. Then this sedimentary our next point is the formation of this sedimentary rock. The formation of the sedimentary rocks are take place in the three stages. First is as an weathering and erosion, second is an sedimentation, third is an lithification and the diagnosis. So we will see each one in detail. So our first point or the first stage in the formation of the sedimentary rock is a weathering and the erosion. Means what? During the weathering and erosion, the pre-existing rocks and their constituent material are broken down. जो पहले से ही जो रॉक जो है वो वेदरिंग एंड इरोजन की वजह से टूट जाते हैं. ओके, these are broken down into the small pieces, and the materials which are produced then they are called as sediments. Okay, due to the weathering and erosion, the big rocks are uh, broken down into the small pieces, and they are called as sediments. And these sediments are usually transported and deposited in the areas of the accumulation by the action of the water. Okay, due to the action of the water and also by the glaciers and wind action, these sediments are deposited in the accumulation, in the areas of the accumulation. Okay, then during this transportation, the sediments are roughly sorted, deposited according to the size. Okay, uh, when these sediments are transported from one point to the another point, they are sorted and it is deposited with their size. Means what? The bigger rocks, the bigger rock fragments are such as gravel. They are settled first because of their weight. They are settled first. Okay, and upon which the second layer is of sand. The sands are deposited next to these rocks. Okay, and then the clays are deposited. Okay, so bigger rocks are settled down first, then the sands, and then clay are deposited in the last. Okay, and the mineral which are dissolved by the water and travel in the solution. Okay, so this is all about the weathering and erosion process. Okay, all these are included in our first stage of the formation of the sedimentary rock, which is the weathering and erosion. Second is the sedimentation. Sedimentation means what? The process of accumulation of sediments at the site of the deposition are called as sedimentation. ये जो रॉक जो है वो एक ही प्लेस पे अकुमुलेट हो जाते हैं, और जो अकुमुलेशन के जो प्रोसीजर है उससे क्या करते हैं? सेडिमेंटेशन. The material which is carried in the solution precipitate and accumulate. So the sedimentation is an intermediate stage in the formation of the sedimentary rock. Okay, this is an intermediate stage in the formation of the sedimentary rock. Third process is the lithification and diagnosis. Lithification means what? Lithification is the process by which the soft and loose sediments are converted into hard and firm rocks. Okay, means transformation of the rocks is nothing but the sediments. So in this transformation, what happens? The soft and the loose sediments are converted into hard and firm rocks, and this procedure is called as an lithification. So this procedure is also called as an consolidation. Lithification is also called as an consolidation, and this is the process by which the soft and the hard loose sediments are converted into hard and the firm rocks. During this process, the physical and chemical properties, physical and chemical changes take place within the sediment. Okay. During the transportation of the sediment, the physical and chemical changes also occurs in the sediment, and these changes are called as an diagenetic changes. So during the transportation, the physical and chemical changes occurs in the sediment, and these changes are called as an diagenetic changes, and the whole process of changing uh, of this change is called as an diagenesis. Okay, so then the diagenetic process also includes the three types. Okay, during the consolidation, physical and chemical changes take place within the sediment, and such sediments are called as an diagenetic changes. Such changes are called as an diagenetic changes, and the whole process is called as an diagenesis. And this diagenesis process include three processes. First one is in compaction, second is in cementation, and third one is in crystallization. Okay, so all these processes are included in the diagenesis process. The first one is in compaction. What is meant by the compaction? Or during the compaction, what happens? Hence, the compaction occurs when the weight of the overlying layers compresses the sediments below. जब भी कोई ओवरलाइन लेयर जो है उसका जो वेट है उसके वजह से जो बिलो जो सेडिमेंट जो है वो कॉम्प्रेस हो जाते हैं. ओके, तो इस प्रोसीजर को कॉम्पैक्शन कहते हैं. As the grains of the sediments are pressed closer and closer together, there is a considerable reduction in the pore space and the volume. Fine grained sediments such as clay are consolidated more effectively by the processes. अपर लेयर के वेट की वजह से बिलो जो सेडिमेंट जो है वो कॉम्प्रेस हो जाते हैं और इस कॉम्प्रेस की वजह से जो इन दो सेडिमेंट्स के बीच की जो स्पेस है, ओके, और जो पोर वॉल्यूम और पोर स्पेस जो है वो फिलअप हो जाता है और रिड्यूस हो जाता है. ओके, the fine grained sediments such as clay as an concentrated more effectively by this process of compaction. Okay, so second process is a cementation. What happens in the cementation, what is meant by the cementation? When water circulates through the pores of the coarse grained sediment, dissolved mineral matter is precipitated between the grains and which causes the cementation. The most common cementing materials are silica, calcium carbonate, iron oxide, and the clay minerals are the most common cementing materials. The identification of the cementing material is relatively simpler matter. Calcium cement will effervesce with the dilute hydraulic acid, while the iron oxide gives the rock a characteristic red, yellow, orange color. Okay. Silica is the hardest of the cements, produces the hardest sedimentary rock. Silica is the hardest of the cements which produces the hardest sedimentary rock. Third process is an crystallization. Crystallization. So most of the rocks are formed either formed by the compaction, some contain cementation, okay, and the remaining are formed by the recrystallization. Okay, most sedimentary rocks are liquefied by the compaction and cementation, or some are a combination of these both, but some are consolidated briefly by the crystallization. Chemically formed rocks such as limestone, dolomite, salt, and gypsum are the examples of such a type of the consolidation by the recrystallization. Okay. रिक्रिस्टलायझेशनचे एक्झाम्पल्स काय आहेत तर डोलेमाइट, सॉल्ट, जिप्सम, limestone. These rocks are consolidated by the recrystallization. So this is all about the diagenesis process. The physical and chemical changes occurs in the rocks in this diagenetic process. Next is a classification of the sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks, the sediments from which the sedimentary rocks are formed may be divided into two major groups. So there are two types. First one is in clastic and second is in non-clastic. Clastic means what? Clastic sediments are broken fragments of the pre-existing rock ranging in the size from minute clay particles to the very large boulders. Okay, small boulders say, sorry, large size boulders से ओके क्ले पार्टिकल्स तक जो रेंज जो है रॉक्स की वो ऑल सेडिमेंट्स आर called as an clastic sediment. Okay, the clastic sediments are the broken fragments of pre-existing rocks ranging in the size from minute clay particles to the very large boulders. Okay, these clastic sediments are again divided into three types, which are rudiceous rocks, arenaceous rocks, and argillaceous rocks. Okay, and the second type of the rock, which is the non-clastic second type of the sediment is an non-clastic sediment. Non-clastic rocks include those sedimentary rocks which are formed by the chemical precipitation of the minerals from water or by the accumulation of remains of the animals and the plants. जो प्री एग्जिस्टिंग रॉक्स से बने हुए हैं उसे क्लास्टिक कहते हैं, क्लास्टिक सेडिमेंट्स कहते हैं. एंड नॉन क्लास्टिक मीन्स व्हाट, the sedimentary rocks which are formed by the precipitation of the minerals from the water or by the accumulation of remains of the animals and the plants. Okay. Then these plastic and non-plastic rocks are again classified into different types. First we will see the different types of the plastic sediments. So depending upon the size of the constituents grains, the plastic rocks are classified into three types. First is an rudiceous rocks, second is arenaceous rocks, and third one is an argillaceous rocks. So first is an rudiceous rocks means what? The rocks which are formed by the accumulation of bigger rock fragments such as gravel, pebbles and the boulders, they are called as rudiceous rock. Okay, so if this rudiceous rock, the grains of these rocks are rounded, then they are called as conglomerate. Okay, and if they are angular, they are called as breccia. So conglomerate and breccia are the examples of these rudiceous rocks. These rudiceous rocks are formed by the accumulation of the bigger rock fragments such as gravel, pebbles and the boulders. Okay, so this is the first type of the clastic sediment. Second is an arenaceous rocks. Arenaceous rocks means what? The rocks which are composed almost entirely of sand grains. Okay, so sand grains से जो complete rock बना हुआ है उसे क्या कहते हैं? Arenaceous rocks. Okay, when the individual grains are rounded, the rock is called as a sandstone. Okay, and if the grains are round angular, then called as a grit. Okay, so arenaceous rock means what? They are completely made up of the sand. Okay, entire rock is made up of from the sand, and if these rocks are showing the rounded structure, then they are called as sandstone, and if they are showing the angular structure, then they are called as grit. Okay, so our third type is an argillaceous rock. Argillaceous rock means what? These rocks are made up of the fine grain sediments. फाइन ग्रेन सेडिमेंट्स जो बना हुआ है उसे क्या कहते हैं? एग्रीलेशियस रॉक. शेल एंड मडस्टोन आर द टिपिकल एग्रेशियस रॉक्स विच आर कंपोज्ड ऑफ द क्ले साइज सेडिमेंट. फाइन ग्रेन से जो बने हुए हैं उसे एग्रीलेशियस कहते हैं. बिगर रॉक फ्रैगमेंट्स से एक्यूमुलेशन होने के बाद जो कहते हैं जो रॉक्स बने हुए हैं उसे क्या कहते हैं? अरेनेशियस. एंड रुडाशियस मीन्स व्हाट? Accumulation of bigger rock fragments. If rocks are formed due to the accumulations of the bigger rock fragments are called as rudiceous. Arenaceous means what? They are completely made up of the sand particles or the sand grains. And the argillaceous means what? They are made up of the very fine grain sediments. Okay. So conglomerate and breccia are the examples of the rudiceous rock. Sandstone and grit are the examples of the arenaceous rock. Shale and mudstone are the examples of the argillaceous rock. All these rocks are the these all rudiceous, argillaceous and arenaceous rocks are the type of the plastic rocks which are made up of from the pre-existing rocks. Okay, so plastic rocks, all these are the plastic rocks which are formed from the pre-existing rock, ranges from small ranging from minute in size to the large type of the boulders. So our next type of the sediment is a non-plastic sediment. Non-plastic sediments are again divided into two groups: chemically formed rocks and organically form rocks. So first we will see the chemically formed rocks. The rocks which are formed when the minerals matter in solution is precipitated from water. Okay, usually because of changes in the water temperature or in the chemical action of the water, then they are called as chemically formed rocks. These chemically formed rocks are again divided or classified into four groups. On the basis of the composition, they are uh, divided into four groups: carbonate rocks, salt rocks, ferruginous rock, and siliceous rock. So our first is an carbonate rock. Then next is salt rock, ferruginous rocks, and siliceous. And the organically formed rocks are again divided into two types: biochemical and the organic rocks. Organically formed rocks means what? These rocks are composed mainly of remains of the animals and plants. Okay, and chemically formed rocks are means this type of the rocks are formed when the mineral matter in solution is precipitated from the water. Okay, so we will see each type of this chemically formed rocks and the organically formed rocks in detail. First one is a carbonate rock. So carbonate rock is a type of the chemically formed rocks. So what is meant by the carbonate rocks? Limestone, dolomites uh, are the type of the carbonate rocks. They are formed by the chemical precipitation of calcium carbonate from the seawater. Okay. Carbonate rocks are the rocks which are formed by the chemical precipitation of calcium carbonate from the seawater. So in the figure you can see the limestone is there, then the dolomite is there. These are the examples of these carbonate rocks. They are formed by the chemical precipitation of calcium carbonate from the seawater. Next type of the rock is an salt rock. Next type of the chemically formed rock are the salt rocks. Salt rocks are formed the evaporate by so evaporation is the major process involved in the deposition of chemical precipitate. The salt deposit formed by the evaporation of saline lakes are called as an evaporites. The principal minerals of these deposits are chloride, sulfides of magnesium, calcium, sodium, phosphorus. So rock salt, gypsum, anhydrite are the most abundant minerals of the evaporites. Here is in the figure you can see the salt rock is there. Okay, so these are formed by the evaporation of the saline lakes. Okay, next is an ferruginous rock. Ferruginous rock these groups include the rocks which are formed by the chemical precipitation of iron oxide. Okay, so we have seen the carbonate rocks which are formed by the chemical precipitation of calcium carbonate. Next we will see the rock salt which are formed by the evaporation of saline lake. Third is a ferruginous rock which are formed by the chemical precipitation of iron oxide. Okay, such a rock contains the high proportion of iron bearing minerals such as hematite, champosite, pyrite. Okay, so here is the example of this ferruginous rock which is the hematite. Next is biochemical rocks. Biochemical rocks are the type of the organically formed rocks. Okay, so means what? Biochemical rocks are produced when the plants and animals living under the water extract from it dissolved minerals matter usually calcite, to form a shell or other hard parts. Okay, in the figure you can see that the design uh, is printed on these rocks. Okay, so these are the biochemical rocks are produced when the plants and animal living under the water extract from it dissolved mineral matter, usually calcite, to form the shells and the other hard parts. Then these shells accumulates on the ocean floor in great quantities to form these sedimentary rocks. Okay, so for example of this biochemical rock is a shell limestone. Shell limestone is an example of this biochemical rock. And our next point is the different textures of the sedimentary rock. So up to here we have seen what is meant by the sedimentary rock, the formation of the sedimentary rock, and the classification of the sedimentary rock. Now we will see the textures of this sedimentary rock. We know that texture means what? Size, shape, and the arrangement of the grains in the rock is nothing but the texture. Okay, so depending upon these factors, the texture of the sedimentary rocks are divided into different types. So depending upon the origin of the grains, the sedimentary rocks may be partially or wholly composed of the clastic grains, or chemically formed or the organically contributed parts. So the Xerox may be a plastic texture or the non-plastic texture. Okay. So depending upon the origin of the grains, the texture of the sedimentary rocks are of two types: plastic and non-plastic texture. Second is the size of the grains. The size of the grains in the sedimentary rocks are varies uh, within the wide limits. Okay, so the three texture recognized on the basis of the grain size are coarse grain rocks, medium grain rocks, and fine grain rocks. Coarse grains rocks are the rocks which are the size of this rock is greater than 5 mm. Then the rocks are called as coarse grain rocks. Okay, when the size of the grain is varies from 1 to 5 mm, then they are called as medium grain rocks. And when the size of the grains are less than 1 mm, then they are called as fine grain rocks. Okay, so depending upon the size of the grains, the texture of the sedimentary rocks are divided into three types: coarse grain, medium grain, and fine grain rocks. Next, the shape of the rock, shape of the grains. Okay, so depending upon the shape of the grains, the texture of these sedimentary rocks are of sphericity or roundness of the sediment, means angular, subangular, rounded, subrounded. Okay, so depending upon the size of the grain, the texture of the sedimentary rocks are angular, subangular, then subrounded or rounded. Means they show the sphericity to the various degree. Roundness or the sphericity are the indications of varying degree of transport and the abrasion suffered during that process. Okay, the conglomerates are full of the rounded, smooth surface pebbles, gravels indicating the lot of transport and rubbing action during their transport before getting deposited and concentrated into the rock mass. So depending upon the shape of these grains, the sedimentary rocks are having a different types, means angular, subangular, rounded, subrounded. These are the different textures of these sedimentary rocks. Here is the figure which is showing all these textures. In the figure you can see this is an angular structure, subangular, it is sub-rounded, then rounded and well sorted. Next is an packing of the sediments or the grains. These sedimentary rocks may be open packed or porous in texture. Sometimes it's open packed, sometimes are porous in texture, or sometimes densely packed depending upon their environment of the formation. Okay, so the texture of the sedimentary rock are sometimes open packed, sometimes densely packed, okay, and sometimes porous in texture. So depending upon the environment of the formation, they are divided into different types, or they are made up of the different types. The degree of the packing is generally related to the load of overlying sediments during the process of the deposition. डिपोजिशन के टाइम पे उसके ऊपर सेडिमेंट्स के ऊपर कितना लोड है, उसी की वजह से वो सेडिमेंट की पैकिंग होती है. ओके सो दिस इज ड्यू टू दिस दे आर ऑफ डिफरेंट टाइप्स. अगर लोड ज़्यादा हो, अगर लोड कमी हो, उसके वजह से उसकी सेटलमेंट हो जाती है. ओके, और उसी के ऊपर इसके डिफरेंट टाइप्स भी बनते हैं. Openly packed, densely packed, they sometimes porous in structure. Next is an fabric of the grains. A given sedimentary rocks may contain many elongated particles. Their orientation demarks the flow of the sediments. So rhyolites are the shows the high degree of crystallization parallel axis of the grains. Okay, so depending upon the fabric of the grains, the sedimentary rocks containing the elongated particles and their orientation demarks the flow of the sediment. So up to here we have seen the different textures of the sedimentary rocks. Now we will see the different structures of the sedimentary rocks. First is as a stratification. Okay, second is an lamination, third is an cross bedding, okay, which is also called as an current bedding. Next is an graded bedding. Next is ripple marks, then concretionary structure, and last is a minor structure. We will see each structure of the sedimentary rocks in detail. So our first structure is an stratification. Here is the figure which is showing the stratification. All the sedimentary rocks characterized by the stratification. Deposition of the sediments into the layers of the beds is nothing but the stratification. Okay, जो सेडिमेंट जो है वो एक के ऊपर एक डिपॉजिट हो जाते हैं. ओके, एंड दिस डिपॉजिशन ऑफ द सेडिमेंट्स इनटू द लेयर्स और द बेड्स are called as stratification. The planes dividing the different beds are called as an bedding planes. So in the figure you can see this is as an bed A, bed B, bed C and bed D. Okay, so all this means the sediments are deposited one above the other in different beds. Okay, then according to their weight they are deposited. First the pebbles or the gravels are deposited, then the clay sand are deposited, and upon the sands are deposited, and upon which the lastly the clay are deposited. Okay, so depending upon the weight of that sediments they are deposited and they form the beds. Okay, and then thus the layer these all the beds are deposited in layers one above the other. Okay, and the deposition of the sediments in layer or the beds are called as stratification. The thickness of this bed may vary from few centimeters to the many meters. Different beds are distinguished from each other by difference in the mineral composition, variation in the grain or texture, difference in the color, and the variation in the thickness. Okay, All the beds are of different mineral composition. The size of the each layer or the bed is different. Then the color of the sediments are also different. Okay, so depending upon all these points, the layers are identified. Different layers are distinguished. Next is as a lamination. Lamination means what? The thin bedding less than 1 centimeter in thickness are called as lamination. Okay. The lamination is found in very fine grained rocks. फाइन ग्रेन रॉक्स में जब भी कोई मीन्स बेडिंग जो है उसकी थिकनेस इज लेस दैन 1 centimeter, then they are called as a lamination. In the laminated rocks, the clay and other flaky minerals tend to lie with their flat surface parallel to the plane of that lamination. So, it should be noted that the lamination refers to the parallel arrangement of the minerals within the bed, whereas the stratification refers to the succession of beds separated by the bedding planes. Okay, so laminations are means difference between the lamination and stratification is what? In the lamination, uh, there is, means lamination refers to the parallel arrangement of the minerals within the bedrock. Okay, and the stratification refers to the succession of the bed separated by the different bedding planes. The different bedding planes are there in the stratification. लैमिनेशन में क्या होता है? पैरेलल मिनरल्स की पैरेलल अरेंजमेंट होती है. Next type of the structure is cross bedding or the current bedding. Okay, cross bedding structure is also called as current bedding structure. It means so in this current bedding structure, minor beds or the laminations lie at the angle to the planes of the जनरल स्ट्राटिफिकेशन. यहाँ पे जो लैमिनेट्स हैं वो एंगल वो डिपॉजिट होते हैं उसके टाइम पे, वो कुछ एंगल में डिपॉजिट होते हैं. तो ईच बेड्स आर डिपॉजिटेड इन सम एंगल. Minor beds or the laminations lie at an angle to the planes of general stratification. Okay, in the figure you can also see that the different beds are there. Okay, and they are deposited with some angle over the stratified layers. So this is our third type. This means the cross bedding or the current bedding. Next is as an graded bedding. Graded bedding means what? Each bed shows the gradation in the grain size from the coarse grain to the fine grain. Okay, in the figure you can also see that the beds, different beds are there, and they shows the gradation in the size coarse to fine. Okay, the coarse grains and the fine grains, they are showing the gradation in the grain size. The result this results by the rapid sedimentation in the water. Okay, such a gradation is occurs due to the rapid sedimentation in water. So here is the figure which is showing the graded bedding. Next type of the structure is the ripple marks. Ripple marks are the wavy undulations which are seen on the surface of the bedding plane. Okay, means ripple like structures are on the surface of the ground, then they are called as in ripple marks, and these ripples are produced by the action of waves or current in the shallow water as well as on the surface due to the wind action. Okay, ripples create हो जाते हैं surface के ऊपर because of the sometimes because due to the water, sometimes because of the wind action. Okay, or sometimes due to the action of the waves. Then they are called as ripple marks. In the figure you can see that these are the ripples which are created on the surface of the rock. Next type of the structure is the minor structure. The surface of the bedding planes shows minor structures such as mud cracks, rain prints. Uh, these are found in the fine grained sedimentary rocks. They are called as minor structures. Okay, so minor structures are showing the different minor structures which are like an mud crack, run prints. Okay, so here in the figure, first figure you can see the rock surface showing the mud cracks. Okay, the cracks which are formed due to the mud. Okay, next is as a, so after that the rock is formed, which is called as a, in the figure you can see the rock is there, but upon which the different cracks are there. Hmm. Next type is in footprints. In the figure you can see the footprints. Next in the figure there is a snake print, and in the figure, in the last figure you can see the rain print. Okay, so in the bedding planes is showing this minor structures such as minor mud crack, rain prints. They are called. So this is also the structure of this sedimentary rock. Now we will see some examples of this sedimentary rock. First is an conglomerate. Next is sandstone, limestone, shell, dolomite, laterite, rock salt, gypsum, coal. These are the examples of the sedimentary rocks. The laterite, which are we are using for the construction of the building. Okay, this is made up of the means this is the type of the sedimentary rock. Then the nature, mineralogical composition, texture, varieties of all these rocks are studied in deep. Okay, the study of these sedimentary rocks are means includes the nature, mineralogical composition, texture, and the varieties of this each rock. Okay, for example, we will study the laterite. The color of the laterite is red, brown, or yellow. Okay, laterite is a residential product of the weathering in hot, humid climate. It occurs as a mantle over the bedrock. Mineralogical composition of this laterite is it is rich in the aluminium and iron oxide, iron hydroxide, with the minor amount of the silica. So in the laterite, the aluminium is there and iron oxide, hydroxide is there, and with some amount of silica is also there in the laterite. Texture of this laterite is porous and concretionary. Okay, and varieties of these laterites are when the laterite reaches aluminum hydroxide, then they are called as bauxite, and this bauxite commonly show the piezolytic structure. Okay, so all the texture, structure, color means all the physical properties of each of these sedimentary rocks are studied in detail. Okay, and this is important for the civil engineer. So now we will see the importance of this engineering importance of this sedimentary rock. These sedimentary rocks are very much important. Means it covers means sedimentary rock cover a great of part of this earth crust. Okay, so they are made up of about 75% of the surface area of the land mass. So it is the type of the rock that an engineer has to deal with the majority of the cases. ये जो rock है मीन्स कंस्ट्रक्शन करते समय ये रॉक हमें बार बार इसका सामना करना पड़ता है. So it is therefore essential for the civil engineer to know as much as the possible about the silent features of this rock. He has to see if such a rock would withstand the loads under the heavy construction. Also, if they are could be trusted in the cuts and tunnels in the highway construction, and also as a reservoir means we have to study the strength properties of each of these rock. Okay, um, and also these rocks are very, most important rocks to act as a natural reservoir of oil and groundwater supplies. Okay, at the time of any type of the construction, the civil engineers को different rocks से सामना करना पड़ता है कोई भी कंस्ट्रक्शन करते समय. ओके, सो कंस्ट्रक्शन करते समय अगर आपको मालूम पड़ता है कि हर एक रॉक की क्वालिटी क्या है, उसकी स्ट्रेंथ क्या है, उसके ऊपर कट्स और टनल्स बन सकते हैं क्या है या नहीं. So because of all these, the study of this rock is very much important from the civil engineering point of view. Okay, and these sedimentary rocks are most important rocks to act as a natural reservoir of the oil and groundwater supply. Okay, so that's it all about the sedimentary rock. So in this lecture we have studied what is meant by the sedimentary rock, then the formation of the sedimentary rock, then we have seen the classification, then the structures of this sedimentary rock, and lastly we have seen some examples of this sedimentary rocks and the engineering importance. Okay, so now we will stop over here. Thank you.